The visage of the headless god is a terror older than memory. In the shadows of antiquity, in the Greek magical practices, a voice cries out to the one who is headless, bornless, mighty and immortal, a being without identity, without a face, without a name, a god stripped of all image, whose power lies in absence. Before we tread any further, this is not an endorsement of these dark concepts. This is a revealing of that darkness, so that when you encounter these ideas and symbols, you will know their source and have knowledge and control to prevent them from taking hold of you. This is a look into the mind of an occultist. This is your warning. To behold the headless one is to see the truth that the mask of the self is only a fragile veil, and that beneath it is a force too vast and nameless for the mind to endure. Except for maybe one man, familiar with the exquisite madness required to lay eyes on such a thing. It required a working of intense concentration and discipline, a ritual which was said to bring the nameless one from the abyss that he ironically gave a name to. Aleister Crowley seized upon an ancient spell and gave it new life. He called it the Bornless Ritual. While Crowley was expanding his knowledge of ancient magical systems, he stumbled upon something that had been discarded over the centuries. Secret knowledge of a demon of the void, or, as he was also known as, the demon of the abyss, Corazon. Corazon was a chaotic entity in occult traditions, mostly Enochian magic, which John Dee and Edward Kelly revived in the 16th century. This being was a significant figure in the writings of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn and Aleister Crowley's later work. He was the demon of dispersion or chaos, the force of breaking down form and order, also unity into confusion, fragmentation, and was also associated with the abyss, the place of dissolution, where ego or the lower self must be confronted and transcended for union with the divine. Then, in 1909, in the Sahara Desert, Crowley performed the ritual with Victor Nurburg to confront and evoke the demon to conquer chaotic forces. What happened next, according to Crowley, was appropriately terrifying. It manifested through Nurburg and attempted to move out of the protective triangle and deceive Crowley. But Crowley claims to have resisted its chaos, deeming the ritual a success. In occult tradition, Corazon has ever-changing fluid appearances to confuse or terrify onlookers. To these two men, this was no mere incantation, but a weapon of initiation, a blade to sever the head of the ego. Crowley once wrote, "I am the headless spirit, having sight in my feet. I am he, the mighty one, who possesses the immortal fire." The words of the ritual are thunderbolts hurled into the soul. They truly believed that this was a declaration of sovereignty over all spirits, over heaven, earth, and the abyss. But what is this abyss that he spoke of? In this context, the abyss is the gulf between the human and the divine, the chasm that lies between reason and truth, between the false ego and the eternal flame. And the headless god that lies inside of it is both a guide and a terror. Its lack of head, its formlessness, mirrors the fate of the magician who dares the passage. According to the madness of this doctrine, this is the paradox. The terror of annihilation conceals the gift of immortality. To embrace the headless god is to renounce selfhood and to inherit infinity. Another strange facet of this demon's identity emerges from their writings. That of the holy guardian angel, a spark of divine flame that was to guide you across this eternal abyss. The truth of existence is that we only see a small sliver of visible light, and much of what we can perceive through sound is a tiny portion on a grand spectrum of vibrations moving through the cosmos. On the total electromagnetic spectrum, the light that we can actually see, all colors that we perceive, exists between the 380 and 700 nanometers wavelengths. All the frequencies above and below these veils are inaccessible to the human being. Some may even say they're forbidden. There is no exaggeration in saying that there are worlds of being that are far beyond us. But are they meant for us? How do we approach the unknowable? It's my contention that this is what the gods of the pagan and occult traditions are. They are an attempt to make the unknown known, as impossible as that is. It appeals to us in an intimate way, subverting our spiritual and mental defenses. It's a crawling chaos that seeps beneath the door rather than breaking it down. We must respect the unknown. Those who don't believe, who don't consider what's beyond the veil of multiple dimensions baffle me. The dimensions that are undetectable by our five senses. Theoretical physics suggests 10 dimensions, 9 spatial and 1 dimension of time. But it gets even crazier. Because according to hypothetical higher dimensional theories, 26 spatial realms, ordered above and below us, may actually exist. Then, on the other side of the spectrum, we have the occult, in which elaborate magical systems have been formed to restrain spiritual forces and entities that are typically unseen, of a higher order. It just reeks of self-importance and arrogance to believe these forces can be understood, let alone categorized and clearly identified when an encounter with something from beyond happens. Countless are the ways that we can be deceived, even by religious figures, ones who preach light but are filled with a false one, often even deceiving themselves, and subtle, cunning energies of division and chaos who nestle in the crevices of time, with the patience to wait generations to watch their unfolding cataclysms blossom at long last. Endless confusions manifest when one considers all the supposed encounters with evil, all the forms it has taken. Some angelic disguises, others a truer form, beasts ravenously destructive and sickened with the lone pleasure of aiding in the dismantling of creation. Any sincere seeker of truth will be exposed to their true vision in time, but we must always remember to take great caution. We are all susceptible to this deception, and any number of us, as good intentioned as we may appear, could be in the process of being catastrophically misled. Delving into the occult and the hidden realms can and will bring inversions of the highest order, confusion without end. I'm advocating for humility here, but it's so important. This message is so important because, and I can't overstate its importance, because we're talking about a disruption of the orientation of your soul. I mean, this is bleak. It can seem that way, even hopeless. But what remedy is there? The answer is simply this: restraint. Restrain your curiosity, and do not wander into lands that are not meant to be tread upon. And in the event that you find yourself far exceeded into that boundary, there is hope. One has already come, an embodiment of truth, the ultimate seer and guide who will lift you from the jagged rocks, a light in the blackness. So many titles and names surround its primordial might. And in the vast depths of the cosmos that our souls get lost in, there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. When Paul of Tarsus entered the gates of Athens 2,000 years ago, he beheld temples of many gods and was troubled at the sight of ornately decorated shrines dedicated to a plethora of idols. As he continued to walk the paths of the city, something strange caught his eye as he approached a small altar set apart from the other temples. On its face, a mysterious inscription that read, "To an unknown God." This video is an exploration of ideas, ancient ones. Some of them may be considered strange or even spiritually dangerous. There are many who are discovering these concepts and touting them as something new. But as King Solomon once wisely said in Ecclesiastes, everything has come before, and there is nothing new under the sun. Men of high learning, people of tribes long gone, have cast their cries skyward, looking for the divine, for a God to approach, to move the stars from his path as he removes the cosmic veil, leaving no doubt of his existence. But upon hearing nothing beyond the ancient electromagnetic echoes of Big Bang energy, we have come to call this perceived absence as the cosmic silence of God. Many scientists actually posit that our local region of space may be in some kind of void, cut off from the rest of the physical universe. Could this explain the stillness and quiet? Nature abhors a vacuum. Surely something will begin to fill these cosmic voids at some point. And if we're in one, something undetectable to our material senses may be striding its depths with us. There are many in the world now gravitating to a very old idea, that there is a creator deity, or even multiple deities, but there's something off, something strange. Perhaps there are spiritual entities around us that hate us. Or maybe perhaps we're so small and insignificant by comparison to them that they don't care that we even exist. What if the universe is actually teeming with transcendent beings, and our idea of them is very wrong? An obscure writer at the beginning of the 20th century fleshed out a fictional cosmos populated with horrific monstrosities and gods of old. H.P. Lovecraft didn't claim to receive his stories through literal visions, but he was a vivid dreamer, and his active imagination allowed him access to these pictures of the divine. He described it as a kind of dream logic, and he even wrote about visits that he got from night gaunts, which were silent, faceless black creatures that appeared to him in nightmares since his childhood. And as he expanded the mythos of these otherworldly creatures and strange gods in his stories, Lovecraft emphasized the importance of the subconscious mind, where deeper knowledge may reside and emerge from the pitch blackness. His gods were often primordial destroyers, looking only to further interests beyond human affairs. Sometimes tentacled or covered with countless eyes, any person that was unfortunate enough to behold one would likely become feverishly insane. They were more archetypal forces of nature, more than anything that we would call life. And they were no friend of mankind. But Lovecraft's universe bears a striking resemblance to the pantheon of a different religion, an inversion of Christianity in which a creator has trapped its creation in an enclosed prison of existence. In Gnostic mythology, the demiurge, often named Yaldabaoth, was brought into existence through the misguided actions of Sophia, an aeon from the divine realm known as the Pleroma. Acting independently and without the consent of the monad, the ultimate god, Sophia's creation was flawed, an ignorant and arrogant being who was cut off from the true divine knowledge. Being cast out from the Pleroma, the demiurge found himself in a void, and unaware of the higher realms, began to fashion a world in his own image, believing himself to be the supreme god. Note the powerful symbolic vision here, mostly borrowed from the creation account in Genesis, but twisted, where a lone deity hovers above a void, or the face of the deep, as he sees his own reflection, his image, and uses it to fashion the universe, like studying a mirror. Using the divine power he unknowingly inherited from Sophia, Yaldabaoth shaped the material universe, including the heavens and the earth and all living things. However, because he lacked true wisdom, his creation was imperfect and corrupt, a mere imitation of the higher spiritual reality. To rule over his creation, he brought forth the archons, lesser beings who helped him maintain control over the physical realm. These were often depicted as oppressive rulers that helped the demiurge maintain his rule. Despite his dominion, Yaldabaoth was unable to create human beings with true life on his own, and according to some Gnostic text, he and his archon shaped the first human, Adam. But he remained lifeless until the higher god or emissaries from the Pleroma breathed a divine spark into him. This enraged the demiurge, as humanity now carried a fragment of the true divine essence, something he lacked. And to keep humans under his control, he trapped them in physical bodies. But a fascinating correlation to this has just emerged from science. Physicists are now proposing that the Big Bang could be understood as a mirror for the universe, suggesting a mirrored universe exists before the Big Bang, running backward in time, which could offer simpler explanations for some cosmological puzzles. This theory posits that the Big Bang is not the beginning of time, but rather a boundary between our universe and a mirror or anti-universe that exists before it, moving backward in time. They say that this can be conceptualized by imagining an hourglass on its side, with our universe flowing forward in time on one side, and the mirror universe flowing backward. The Big Bang would be the mirror or boundary between these two universes. As uncomfortable as some of these ideas are for modern philosophers and churchgoers, many others are genuinely curious about how a god such as theirs brought about creation. They imagine what it must have or could have looked like, or maybe even more importantly, what it sounded like. The information given in Genesis lays out a pretty powerful sensory experience, one that many don't think deeply enough about. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and now the earth was formless and empty, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering above the waters. So far, we have an image of God hovering over something pre-existent to the earth, a mass of darkness, much like the story in the Gnostic myth. Did he see his reflection? Was this to be the early prototype of humankind, as we are said to be made in the image of God? Could this darkness, this face of the deep, be referring to dark matter and dark energy, which together make up for 95% of the mass energy content according to the latest science. But an even more interesting proposition seems to emerge in the next few infamous verses. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. God saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. Now, the interesting part about this is that most Christians are solely focused on the light in these verses. But what has really stood out to me lately is that before light came into existence, the sound of God's voice came forth first. Sound preceded light. The will of action is clearly seen in a causal relationship here. The mysteries of these passages somehow only deepen the clarity of some of the details. Let's just circle back to physics for a second. Now, according to string theory, matter at its deepest micro level isn't even physical at all. Physical reality is actually made up of tiny, infinitesimally small strings. Tiny traces, vestiges of energy that vibrate at their own unique frequencies. For all intents and purposes, it seems to be sound itself. What if, at the beginning, this very power was at work? A power, a voice, representing the will moving forward into the depths. Then a sudden moment, so incomprehensibly fast, an emergent illumination. All from the very first words spoken. Now, these strings that physicists say make up everything may be a resonance of the divine, the very voice of God that came forth at the beginning. We stand in awe of this moment, but it is not a singular event. I believe that we reflect this same power, but on a much smaller scale. The power of speech, the word, the logos. We can speak things into existence in some sense. We can shift the momentum of the cosmos in the physical and the spiritual sense. To be clear, I am not a Gnostic. We have the power, but God is the ultimate source, and not to be connected to the source is death. We can use the power to manifest for our own selfish will, or we can surrender our limited desires for something transcendent. But is God truly unknowable? According to Gnostics, their idea of the ultimate God, their monad, is so far beyond our reality that it is truly unreachable, distant, cold. But I would argue that the true God is absolutely knowable and much closer than you think. I often think about how an idea forms in our minds. The bending synapses, an electric light filling the depths of nothingness, darkness with the seed of creation. Then, somehow, a thought is birthed, an energetic echo of the music of the world above, beyond. Yet we still can't tell exactly where they come from. To communicate is a miracle of creation. We send out vibrations, waves of subtle energy, and our inflections in body language, facilitating a symphony of articulation. And to me, we're simply imitating what came at the beginning. Now, Paul, who had read the cryptic inscription to an unknown God, went on to the synagogue in Athens and reasoned with the philosophers and thinkers of the city with these words. People of Athens, I see that in every way you are very religious. For as I walked around and looked carefully at your objects of worship, I even found an altar with this inscription, to an unknown God. So you are ignorant of the very thing you worship. And this is what I'm going to proclaim to you. The God who made the world and everything in it is the Lord of heaven and earth, and does not live in temples built by human hands. And he is not served by human hands, as if he needed anything. Rather, he himself gives everyone life and breath and everything else. in one man he made all the nations, that they should inhabit the whole earth. And he marked out their appointed times in history and the boundaries of their lands. God did this so that they would seek him and perhaps reach out for him and find him, though he is not far from any one of us. For in him we live and move and have our being. As some of your own poets have said, we are his offspring. Therefore, since we are God's offspring, we should not think that the divine being is like gold or silver or stone, an image made by human design and skill. In the past, God overlooked such ignorance, but now he commands all people everywhere to repent. For he has set a day when he will judge the world with justice by the man he has appointed. He has given proof to this to everyone by raising him from the dead. The pagan festival of Letha begins soon, meaning midsummer, full of rites, Gaia worship, along with her lesser-known, mysterious companion. Though on the surface appearing virtuous, they often see the human race as a plague that their nature god has nothing but contempt for, causing them to participate in dark rites and embrace an ancient spirit that may be returning to reclaim the earth. This midsummer festival starts the day before the summer solstice, a powerful occultic holiday chosen by two environmental activists to put on a spectacle for their cause. On the morning of June 19th, the two ran toward the gigantic structure with what looked like fire extinguishers, but then began spraying the stones with orange paint powder. Bystanders intervened and tried pulling them away, but were unsuccessful until police showed up and made the arrests. The activist group that they belonged to, called Just Stop Oil, said that the two were just taking action and decorated the stones to bring the attention to the lack of environmental protection that the UK government is providing lately. It's so ironic that the spirit of nature worship is being embodied in the defacing of a pagan monument that's in alignment with celestial bodies, making this summer solstice a ritual for generations, especially for the Wiccans and neo-pagans. They carry on a deep occultic tradition held by the ancient Druids. And one of the most well-known and powerful Druids is directly connected to the construction of Stonehenge. Ancient folktales speak of Arthur, the supernaturally gifted king, and his mentor and advisor, the wise and mighty Merlin. He's often depicted as the embodiment of the archetype of the hermit, a long white beard, a fierce countenance, appearing to radiate a burden, the wisdom of the ages. One legend tells of how Arthur was searching for proper burial ground for Britain's dead princes, and when the king's army failed to dig up and erect the large stones, Merlin, who scoffed at their feeble effort, employed his own methods, which were more advanced, and many tales speak of his use of a powerful magic to lift and carry the stones to their modern resting place. Other myths mention the old wizard employing giants to complete the labor. But almost all the stories agree this mysterious wild man used methods far beyond natural means. The Druids never kept written records, but oral traditions are said to have been used to keep the rituals and magic alive among the elite priestly class. And stories of their brutal rituals are notorious. To go more in depth on that, watch my video on the secret origins of Halloween here. But hopefully you can see the irony in the Stonehenge vandalism. A famous druid, one of the progenitors of nature worship, building a monument that still to this day helps carry out that reverence for the Gaia spirit and it's defaced in order to protest the perceived lack of protection of nature by a modern government. I'm sure it makes sense in their brains, somehow. The climate agenda is clearly a facet of this Wiccan, neo-pagan drive to prioritize cleanliness of the earth, and words like cleansing and reset are used by these elites to justify economic plans that are detrimental to human development and health in the long term. You'll own nothing and be happy. You'll live in a pod. Use green, government-approved transport methods, likely Ubering a self-driving electric car, and you'll eat bugs and fake plant-based meat sludge. King Charles, one of the main Green Agenda proponents, makes speeches about the Great Reset. And don't get me started on the occultic ties that the royal family has, the dark esoteric symbols that surround them, but one sticks out in my mind as of late. When Charles was coronated as king this year, he sent out ornate invitation cards. And as I looked at the colors and symbols, the bottom center jumped out at me, seeming to emerge from foliage around it, a green face partially made of leaves. And I knew this face, the Green Man, Cernunnos, the male god of Wicca, the protector of nature, and the suspected unknown god of the ancient druid cults. The one that's associated with human, termination. I dive deeper into the Green Man in this video above, but take a closer look at its headdress, the wreaths of midsummer rituals. And you can see the faded protrusions of what look like faded horns, a subtle, still obvious reference to the horned male nature god. And between them, a torch, almost identical to the one in Eliphas Levi's depiction of the Baphomet. A source of Luciferian light, the wisdom of ages. The elite love this type of shit. They're plainly showing their beliefs and intentions through symbols, and it's easy for one to just overlook and ignore them, however creepy some of them are. I also noticed the monarch butterfly, another favorite symbol of the elites with connections to monarch mind control. A monarch butterfly also showed up in Charles's ultra-creepy portrait recently. He released this, and it looks to be floating just above his right shoulder as he gazes out. The rest of him in the background is saturated in blood-red hues. I feel my skin crawl just looking at this thing. It's an even poorer taste if you take into consideration that this is one of Vlad the Impaler's descendants, who's also taken up residence recently in one of his castles. Not creepy at all. There's something unsettling about all these royals, but one can reasonably surmise that they're up to no good in all likelihood. But there are a lot of health issues going on behind the scenes, and many are saying that this may be the end of an era, that the monarchy may be replaced as a new kind of order may take its place. Something transformative is happening in the spirit realm, and it's shaking the foundations of our world as well. People are leaving the biblical God and following spirits, gods of old that entice them with their seductive songs and rituals. Have you felt this presence watching us? A mysterious face from deep in antiquity. Who is this green, horned god who seems to be rising to reclaim his status as a symbol of devotion for so many?
All hail to the guardians of the Eastern Watch watchtower.
And I'm the high priestess.
Blessed be the ancestors.
To be a witch is incredibly relevant in today's society.
I cast the circle hand to hand.
We kind of work a magic together.
There's no devil worship, only a love for the goddess of creation and inspiration, along with the antlered god of all things wild and free.
Then with a strong belief in what goes around comes around, we can say that there's never a need for black magic.
The late 19th and 20th century saw the resurgence of paganism and the return to the worship of the mother goddess. But many seem to have forgotten about her dark and mysterious counterpart, the Celtic deity Cernunnos, or the Horned One. This Wiccan god is usually portrayed as an antlered man and is the lord of the forest and animals, often seen as the spirit of vegetation and growth. He's usually depicted as Mother Nature's lover, but also sometimes as her child. And Wiccan tradition holds that he is the oldest male deity worshipped by human beings. Most religions of prehistory are still mostly unknown, shrouded in mystery. But in the mid-19th century, this elemental symbol was pulled from the abyss. Cernunnos and the god Pan became popular among poets. Pan, of course, being a Greek version of Cernunnos, being half man, half goat, a wild man of the woods, and a sort of trickster. Their rise in popularity almost 200 years ago has given birth to modern-day Wicca. And many of Pan's features were attributed to the Christian devil, having hooves, horns, and goat legs. I think it's worth mentioning that according to Greek mythology, he was the grandson of Saturn, or Satan, and his legend speaks of him being emotionally volatile and being truly terrifying when upset. Many words in the English language have derived from his name, including words like panic. And in John Milton's epic poem titled Paradise Lost, he named the capital city of hell as Pandemonium. There seems to be a modern-day love affair with all things mystical from our shrouded past. One of the most strange and mysterious symbols and motifs found in architecture and art of the Middle Ages is that of the Green Man. And this mysterious figure shows up in many of the ancient European rituals still performed to this day. He's usually depicted as a masked man clothed in leaves. He seems to be some sort of anthropomorphic manifestation of the spirit of nature. Many pagans use poems to invoke and call out to the spirit of the Green Man. His likeness is used in many rituals also, where a wicker man covered in shrubs and greenery is burned. Some writers suggest that this is some type of surviving remnant of ancient traditions of human sacrifice. Even more strangely, in architecture around the world, for centuries have depicted this mysterious face. A man surrounded by leaves, piercing through, staring out, as if he was trying to speak to us. But what exactly is he saying? The worship of nature itself is coming back in full force, spiritually as well as politically.
When humanity really wants something, our Promethean powers of invention are quite amazing. When we have to do it, then we do it. Necessity, the mother of invention. We crack it. And look at what the UK has done with coal-fired power stations. It's a big problem around the world. I'm massively sympathetic to countries that that are still relying on coal. But there are alternatives. It hasn't been a particularly windy year, but we must propitiate the Aeolus, the god of winds, and sacrifice a goat or something and get it. But lots of goats in a humane way, obviously.
I see the green agenda as a thinly veiled attempt to make us regress back to our pagan past. The heavens writhe and churn above us in patterns that many claim can mirror the events of our lower world, possibly even predict what's lurking around our future horizon. August of 2024 is seeing a nearby heavenly body act bizarrely and misbehave, and now many astrologers are warning that the irregular movement of this planet is the harbinger of a dark cosmic blackout of sorts, as they lament the departure of one of their old gods. Mercury is the closest planet to the sun, and most times of the year, it follows a normal path through the sky from our perspective. But August of this year will see a reversal in this pattern. It will appear to us that Mercury has reversed its course in the coming weeks, which is what they call Mercury in retrograde. Now, this is making astrology nerds and New Agers somewhat anxious with existentially bad vibes. Even major publications are posting spooky articles about the bad juju in the air because of this planetary movement. So are we becoming more superstitious as a culture? I think this is a testament to the slow, steady, yet obvious move back to paganism and its emphasis on the motions of the celestial bodies. Let me start by explaining some of the meaning behind these esoteric beings behind this movement. Mercury, or Hermes to the Greeks, was the Roman celestial messenger of the gods. Donning a winged hat and boots, he moved at incredible speeds between heaven and earth. It's also said in mythology that he could easily traverse through and between the realms of the living and the dead, a guide to the dead for their trips to the underworld. He carried something of a sacred object as well, a staff embroidered with two intertwined serpents, the caduceus, which represented safe passage for the slain. And today, it represents medicine and our medical field. This master of the domain of communication, which was vital to the whole cosmos, was later associated with the Egyptian god of writing, Thoth. The mix of their attributes was embodied by the wise figure revered by the occult and esoteric schools of thought, even to this day. His name was Hermes Trismegistus, or Hermes Thrice Great. He was said to be a teacher and mystic who was the author of the infamous Emerald Tablet, where we get the mysterious axiom, as above, so below. So all of these symbols and meanings are still tightly associated with Mercury, the planet. And the fact that the planet is inverting its direction from our vantage point has astrologers interpreting this as a breakdown in communication and travel across the universe for at least a few weeks. I want you to try to understand what it is that they're saying and what they believe, because to them, the spiritual energy coming from this event will cause massive breakdowns in understanding each other as a culture and even on an individual level. In magical practices, this is a time for self-reflection and rituals to clear energy of the past, new clean slate type of stuff. Now, I do believe that there is a certain power exuded from these cosmic events, and that it is definitely magnified by this perpetuation of fear around it. But I want to talk about the power of awareness. Awareness is a huge component in nullifying its effects. I've read too many passages and absorbed too much wisdom on a very simple idea, and that idea is this: do not focus on the movement of creation in and of itself as a guide. There is something transcendent above all of the physical, and consulting its patterns, making predictions of the future, discerning meaning from something created instead of a creator, is a path to suffering and death. So I encourage all of you now to think deeply on this before making a judgment of your own. It was the ancient Chinese philosopher known as Confucius who once wisely said that signs and symbols rule the world, not words nor laws. Welcome back, my friends. We are exposed to thousands of images daily, bombarded by them really. Many of them symbols and advertisements, others art and pictures. This is very much a modern occurrence, but there is a recurring archetypal image, one that has haunted men for ages, that of the serpent. The semblance of this creature was feared and even venerated in a plethora of cultures. We have Quetzalcoatl, or the plumed serpent, who was worshipped in Mesoamerica since around 1200 AD. This feathered serpent became the patron god of priests and merchants, as well as the god of learning itself, science, agriculture, and the creative arts. Even Venus, the morning star, also known as Lucifer, was also associated with Quetzalcoatl. And in Asia, this theme of the wisdom of great serpents continues with the Chinese mythos. The dragons they worshipped were powerful and wise beasts that were thought to bring good fortune, and even today, dragon dances are performed to chase away evil spirits. In Hinduism and Buddhism, there exists a race of semi-divine beings, half human and half cobra. They were shapeshifters that had the ability to take on the appearance of being fully man or fully cobra. Legend speaks of the god Brahma sending the Nagas to the nether regions underground, forming vast kingdoms there, and are still seen today as guardians or gatekeepers. This is very much in line with many inner earth conspiracies of the kingdom of Agartha or Shambhala, hidden deep beneath our feet, according to the ancient stories. So what is it about this ancient creature that's so compelling and so sacred? In Joseph Campbell's book titled The Power of Myth, he conceptualizes this serpent symbolism in a fascinating way. Quote, "A constant image is that of the conflict of the eagle and the serpent bound to the earth, the eagle in spiritual flight. Isn't that conflict something we all experience? And then, when the two amalgamate, we get a wonderful dragon, a serpent with wings. All over the earth, people recognize these images." Unquote. As Campbell mentions the serpent's association with being bound to the earth, and his chimeric image of a serpent with wings, I cannot help but think of the serpent in Eden in Genesis, who, according to the text, was responsible for the temptation and subsequent banishment of humans from Eden. The serpent, who previously had wings, was given a curse of his own by God, forcing the scheming reptile to crawl on its belly, a sort of binding to the earth in a way. Westerners tend to regard the reptile as representing forbidden or even hidden knowledge, which makes it an ideal symbol for the mystery religions and secret societies that populate our world. They seem to have formed alliances with these beings, with their heresies and rituals. Whether or not they actually physically contact a real creature is irrelevant. They are in union with them symbolically, and that transcends our physical world. But make no mistake, those who join in their esoteric cause with this brood of vipers will certainly share in their fate. The prophetic words of Revelation chapter 20, verse 2 are very clear. He laid hold of the dragon, that serpent of old, who is the devil and Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years. As far back as I can remember, I've always been terrified of deep water. This elemental fear of the murky depths and what may lie beneath them turns out to be the kind of picture that Greek mythology offers in the origin of the universe. It speaks of a dark primordial sea of chaos containing creatures and energy that we can't conceive of, who were a part of its unbelievably cold depths. But this chaos was said to be conscious and often personified in these myths with horrifying descriptions of a sort of older god, a deity that has been long forgotten or even hidden from most of humanity. Even the Christian Bible speaks of a gap or an abyss created at the beginning of time, during the separation of heaven and earth in Genesis 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and now the earth was formless and empty, and darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. But is there any truth to this theory that a God brought order out of the chaos? And what kind of cosmic forces were involved in this exchange? The Mesopotamians actually believed in a primordial serpentine goddess named Tiamat. She represents the sacred feminine in many aspects, who was there at the beginning, the inception of the universe, and gave birth to all things, often referred to as the glistening one. It's interesting to imagine and think about, but to the modern person, what do any of these images and symbols mean? Surely all this talk of mystical energy and deities from the abyss is off-putting to a rational modern mind, right? But the abyss may be nearer than we think, calling out to us. We live in an age now of science and particle accelerators. Men build grand structures in the name of science and discovery. And as our knowledge grows, so does our arrogance. And it's no surprise that the scientists at CERN have actually nicknamed their grand endeavor as the Tower of Babel, with their mission being to find out what the particles of the universe are truly made of, to smash particles together and in effect return the universe back to its original chaos. A black magic practitioner and author by the name of Arthur Moros wrote a book called Cult of the Black Cube. In it, he explains that the Roman god Saturn has been revered and worshipped by countless cultures, in the past and the present. One of the reasons for the Black Cube association is that the planet Saturn itself has a raging storm at its north pole, which looks like a cube viewed from a certain angle. Moros goes on to explain in his book that the Saturn deity is not just an archetype, but an actual real being, one that can actually be contacted and summoned. But the summoner must be willing to make a sacrifice, a literal one. In order to appease this dark god, one must be willing to spill blood. He actually demands it. But what exactly stops this entity from dismantling the universe and bringing it back to its original state? The cube denotes an artificial shape, taken on after being cut away and set apart from the order of creation, becoming a restraining prison for the dark entity, being brought forth only by the skilled black magic practitioner, which Moros claimed to be for several decades. The Saturn cult reveres the chaos as sovereign over the God who brought order to it, rejecting the Creator, an inversion of Christianity. This cult of Saturn, through its malevolent and dark, destructive rituals, wishes to return the universe to its original chaotic state, so that chaos will reign once again. It's also interesting to note that before this book was published, Arthur Moros died under mysterious circumstances. Maybe other members of the cult didn't appreciate what he was trying to do with this book. Regardless of how and why he met his end, he stressed that most symbolic uses of the black cube are intentional in the context that we've mentioned here, and that Saturn is a subtle but very powerful god, infiltrating most, if not all, major religions, spreading its symbolism and influence throughout the world, while most are completely unaware. Just take a look at the word Vatican, which literally translates from the Latin as divine serpent. Perhaps a veiled reference to Tiamat? You be the judge. Now, if you're still watching this, I have a warning for you. There's a good chance that the spirit world is very real, my friends, and it's like playing with fire. Just take a listen to the words of the late, great Christopher Lee.
And I have met people who claimed to be Satanists, who claimed to be involved with black magic, who claimed that they not only knew a lot about it, but as I said, I've certainly never been involved, and I warn all of you, never, never, never. You will not only lose your mind, you lose your soul.
After just 2 days of deliberation, the Catholic conclave of 133 members has decided on a new high priest of Babylon. I was doing some reading, and I may have stumbled upon a connection to a dark prophecy. Smoke rituals are common in many forms of witchcraft. Practitioners consult spirits by studying the forms rising from the burning haze. It's even used to cast powerful spells. And it's not surprising that a similar ritual was used to signal the collective will of the Catholic conclave when they elected former Cardinal Robert Prevost as the first American Pope in history. It's a position also known as Holy Father, despite real Christianity forbidding us to call anyone on earth Father. And if you were ever to meet the man, you would have to adhere to a strict Catholic protocol. You must address him as Your Holiness and speak only when spoken to. And if you so choose, you can kneel and kiss his ring. So many past popes have spoken absolute blasphemy, putting themselves on an equal or even higher level than Christ or even God himself. Interestingly, this new pope has chosen Leo XIV as his name. Now, there's always symbolic reasoning behind everything the church does. As it does not serve the message of Christ, this institution is full of pagan symbols of so-called enlightenment. Take Mary, a mere human woman, a vessel for Christ's incarnation, has somehow become deified as a goddess. The Babylonians worshipped Semiramis as a queen of heaven. She also miraculously birthed a son named Tammuz, also without the aid of a human father. It was a cult of mother-child worship that seems to be alive and well in the Catholic doctrine today. The priests of Babel were also adorned in elaborate robes and headdresses. They performed rituals, used holy water to bless in the name of their pagan gods. The priests of today still carry out this purpose under a false Christian facade. I fear that a great evil has been housed at the Vatican complex, an esoteric continuation of Mystery Babylon. And as for the man who is now its new high priest, Leo is an interesting name. To the Romans, it meant lion. Now you may or may not have recently heard about this prophecy of the popes. Apparently, in the 12th century, St. Malachi had a vision. He saw all future popes in history, each with a short, symbolic description of each of them. And the final pope, according to him, which of course corresponds to the newly elected one, was titled by Malachi as Peter the Roman. This actually has Catholics and theologians breathing a sigh of relief, as Robert Prevost hails from Chicago and has no obvious connection to Rome, and so many are now calling this prophecy a failure, a superstition. But I did some digging, and I believe I found a deeper symbol at play here. Hang with me. Now, he chose the name Leo, or lion. And in ancient religious symbolism, the lion was associated with the sun god Mithra, and even the Roman god Mars. The image of this beast was on the face of Roman coins. Countless lion sculptures were placed as guardians of temples and gates, further reinforcing its status as a symbol of Roman identity itself. Now, was this the reasoning behind this choice of Leo the Lion, this title? Peter the Roman may actually be a fitting name for him. In symbolic terms, this actually works kind of perfectly. But also remember that lions were also employed in the deplorable end of many Christians in the Colosseum in the 1st century. Could this also be a clue as to the intentions of the Vatican toward the true faith? As always, make up your own mind, but tell me in the comments. Maybe I'm onto something, maybe I'm just reaching. In the context of the tarot deck, the Grim Reaper doesn't necessarily signify literal death. It represents more of change, transformation, dramatic life changes. I think that that's one of the reasons we're so preoccupied with this symbol. Now, I don't necessarily dabble in tarot, but as far as symbology, psychology is concerned, it's extremely interesting that we use the Grim Reaper and the Death Tarot symbol so much, and why we're so preoccupied with it, and why it's such a powerful symbol. Now, one of the reasons that this symbol is caught on is because it took hold in, I think it was the 14th century, this Grim Reaper archetype. And during the Black Plague, I think there were sightings of this entity in a black robe with a scythe. But, you know, we won't get into but There was also tons of death during this time, of course, bodies everywhere where there typically weren't, in mass graves, people seeing the skeletal figures, the corpses, and I think a lot of that has been transferred down through ancestral memory. That the skeletal figure of the Grim Reaper is a ancestral remnant, this vestige of a symbol that's like buried deep in our minds. One of the reasons for that, the Black Plague played hugely into that, but one of the reasons that I think that we've pasted that symbol specifically onto the Grim Reaper is, of course, we fear death. We all, not everyone specifically at every specific time, but in general, a human being it's the great mystery. We don't know what's on the other side. All kinds of theories. That's why the religions of the world exist in the form that they do, is because they set out to answer these questions, to answer, to bring light to the darkness, to fix the unknown, if that makes sense, to fix the problem of what comes after, what is on the other side of that threshold. And that's a powerful motif that is interestingly encapsulated in change and transformation, because we're terrified of that too. A lot of times, when we don't know what's on the other side of the wall, on the other side of the fence, we naturally have this instinct of, don't go there. There's danger. Danger could be there. The potential, I guess it's the potentiality of dangers and mystery. These things that we really, you can't, it's always a risk. We're always taking a risk. We can get very comfortable in our routines. But I think that's why the death card in the tarot is such a powerful symbol, and why people still cling to this, partially, like I said, is ancestral memory. I made a video on ancestral memory and how this gets transferred from generation to generation. I'll link that here. Click on that if you haven't seen that. But, but beyond the ancestral memory, I think that it does, and it officially does in the tarot deck, that this symbol represents great change in our lives. And the reason, that we can be completely terrified of something like that. But whenever we're talking about death, we have to remember that it's not always literal death, okay? You have to of course, Christianity talks about this, possibly other religions, but you have to, and we do this in everyday life. You have to make choices. And when you make a choice, you can look at it this way, you can conceptualize it this way, that when you make a choice, one part of you has to die. The part that wanted to make the other choice, you sort of have to discard that, and it dies, and you move on. The rest of you lives and flourishes outward, away from the dead matter, It's like if you want to use the symbol of, like a snake sheds its skin, it's sort of releasing that husk, but part of you has to die. It's like death is incorporated into our reality in so many more ways and of course I'm not talking about literal death, but just the motif of discarding something, discarding part of you, okay? Because we are so complex, it's insane that we have thoughts, urges, and drives that want to take us different directions all the time. And the choices that we ultimately make are always, you can't even predict these things. These things are so complex, and these desires sort of play themselves out. It's almost as if, I guess you could call them micro personalities. That's one way to look at it. They're like an entirely, I don't want to say new, but they're entirely different subset of your existence. I mean, it's who you are. There are things inside you that don't even, I mean, they've proved this about DNA. There's a lot of things that you haven't been exposed to that will activate. I mean, these will manifest as thoughts, feelings, and they won't manifest themselves until you're exposed to certain conditions. And one of the things I find really fascinating is that in Western culture especially, it's almost as if we've been desensitized to literal death. Okay, we see, you know, your typical movie has got a body count in the double digits, easy. I mean, just scratching the double digits is going easy on people these days. Like any movie you watch, you're gonna have dozens of, you know, people perishing in that movie, and you don't think anything of it. And in this way, we're sort of numbed to that, desensitized to that. And it's just so crazy because it's like this. I was thinking about it the other day, and I'm putting more thought into it now, that it's almost like this Trojan horse that to the stranger, to the other, you know, we're desensitized to, you know, it's their family, their tragedy. It's sort of like we're numb to it a little bit, you know, because we see it in the movies, and then somebody else, it's like in the news constantly. 24-hour news cycle has changed this. I think they started that back in the 90s, early 90s or something, maybe late 80s. But 24-hour news cycle, people dying. You just never stop hearing about people perishing, you know, whatever it is, you know, attacks, crime, whatever, tragedies. The 24-hour news cycle has changed that psychologically over a few generations here, but it's become even more increased, you can argue, with smartphones and all that stuff, because we've got access to that 24-hour news cycle constantly. But I digress on that. There's a lot of subtleties with that, but I guess my point that I'm heading toward here is that now that we've got this in our entertainment and we're exposed to this news cycle where people are just constantly perishing, it's almost as if we feel that it's not necessarily, you know, on the surface it looks like we're being desensitized, but it's just this thing where when tragedy happens to us, to our family, to our friends, to people extremely close to us, it affects even more deeply, because we were surrounded by this sort of fake facade of what death really was, you know, and people are shaken. I mean, and it's made us less, I guess, more sensitive to change. People freak out, you know, and we can blame the mental health crisis on this, and because all these people want to identify all these problems that they have psychologically with change. I mean, and this is exactly what I'm talking. The change is death. I'm speaking in symbolic terms. That's why people are so taken with that motif. And I suppose that the crux of this video has more to do with, the bone that I have to pick with Western civilization. It has made us so sensitive to change. It's put us into boxes that make us fragile. And one of the things that I guess irks me about our entire civilization right now is that society is making us so comfortable in our current state. You know, we don't really, everything is just, the internet's made this insanely complicated, that everyone is in their own little bubble. There is searching for the terminology here, but confirmation bias. You can literally Google anything, and somewhere in those search results, there's going to be something that is going to fit the criteria of your emotional state or your judgment of whatever the subject was, your preconceived notion of what it should be about, what the facts should be, what they should feel like, and that's a real problem. So it's sort of created these bubbles, these Venn diagrams in society, where a lot of them don't touch. And if somebody else from one of these other bubbles comes into your bubble with some crazy off-the-wall idea, at least it's crazy to you, you just automatically reject it. You don't, and technology and society and civilization has taught you not to think. So what do? You scoff, joke. It's just ridiculous to you that a different idea could come along and just disrupt your bubble. And that is a serious problem. But as far as literal death is concerned, I mean, I'm not complaining, but I've been through it. I mean, I've lost a lot of people. A lot of family the last few years. And then, of course, a lot of people who weren't so close to me. They were people my age, which is crazy. I'm 40 years old, and I just hear about former classmates that are just passing away, and it's just become a subject that's kind of taken my attention. I don't want to obsess over it, but thinking a little bit about literal death. But there's also this underlying sort of, manufactured myth, like I said, that's being peddled and sort of it's programming by Western civilization to this is why it knocks us sideways so much, because they sort of give you this idea of what it's supposed to be like. It's the difference between the dichotomy between the way things are, truly what's actually occurring, the grief and anger and of the world concerning literal death and just major changes, and how we're supposed to react to that, and how we're supposed to see that, and the way that society has kind of painted that picture. It's just like when they run into each other, it's just chaos. It's not the same thing. And I think that's why the mental health crisis has just ramped up. And I've just noticed a disturbingly low amount of compassion out there. Just when tragedy does strike, and you approach someone, and maybe the person, the victim or whoever didn't get well so long with the other person is just viscerally reacts and says all kinds of disgusting, nasty things. It just kind of shocks me. And I know that capacity, I'm not saying I'm outside that or I'm better than that, but it's just, when you see it on the outside, sometimes it's a little easier to see. But I think this stuff is going on inside all of us in the Western world. And it's disturbing. And there's going to be a reckoning for that. And maybe it's already started. The annual construction of Black Rock City in the Nevada desert is complete. To the participants of Burning Man, it's much more than a festival. And looking at the intricate and amazing artwork that's going to be displayed there this year, I tend to agree with them. It's much more. Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for hanging out. Burning Man's theme this year is Tomorrow, Today, a peculiar reference to the dissolution of normal time. It's a strange mashup of two potential futures that they say are coming to a head in the popular imagination. As described on their own website, we are headed for either a tech-fueled rise for humanity into a new utopia or a dystopian wasteland, thrust into total collapse by its own unsustainable weight. But while I was considering these ideas, I had a small amount of synchronicity recently. I was listening to a lecture by the infamous author and psychonaut Terence McKenna. He spoke often of the misunderstanding of time that we have, but he went a step further, and I was blown away at the implications that he made. Quote, "History is the shockwave of eschatology," unquote. Before I go on, for those who are unfamiliar with what eschatology is, it's the part of theology concerned with death, judgment, and the final destiny of the soul and of humankind, where we're going as a species. And for example, this aligns with the motifs found in the book of Revelation in the Bible. But Terence paints an incredibly dense symbol here. History is the shockwave of eschatology. And what that means is history is not pushed from behind, from the past, from the Big Bang or World War II or the Nixon administration or any of that. History is pulled by the future. The human adventure in time is under the control of an attractor that lies ahead of us in the story, not behind us in the story. And the curious plottedness that haunts our lives, that we call synchronicity or magic or good luck, is in fact the high walls of the attractor, the high walls of the groove in which the story must run. I can't help but love this guy's use of poetic language and his ideas, the way they're described here, as this kind of inevitability of time, how there's a sort of destiny. But he also goes on to mention this sort of fixed point, this transcendent being that he said is, of course, comparable to God or some type of archetype, something outside of time that's pulling it into this plan, this groove. And I think he meant like the grooves on a record. He also talked a lot about time acceleration, which I made a video back here. If you haven't seen that yet, I'll link it here or I'll put it in the comments. But he also had the theory that the events of time and the complexity of life are speeding up and moving toward this point, this either cataclysm or transcendence for all. But you also have to remember that he reached these conclusions through the use of psychedelics. These things were sort of revelatory information, things that he thought about for years. But it's funny to me that the more that these used motifs kind of work their way into these conversations, and the more that these, pagans, psychonauts, people who use psychedelics try to get away from a religion, established religion, the more the symbols kind of align with it and come right back full circle. It's as if there's no escape. His mentioning of this immovable object that's sort of guiding time, what is that? I mean, it's something that you could be comparing to a god or as some type of deity. But interestingly enough, he said that not only psychedelics and certain types of meditation can bring these revelations, but in the same lecture he mentioned art appreciation, being able to look at something and sort of shift your perspective based on that art. And I think this is a lot of what's happening at Burning Man. In fact, I think this is exactly what some of these artists are trying to do. A lot of it is that human urge to go to the edge of understanding. Psychedelics are the quintessential edges of human understanding. It's full of experiences and things that you cannot filter back through your normal senses and things that can't be explained. And in my opinion, they're very dangerous because of that. I don't think we have any idea what we're doing. And I think we're treading into spiritual territory with the use of these chemicals. But after generations of using these things and generations of shamanism, after all of this quote-unquote progression that these people claim that it yielded, what have we come back to? We have come back full circle to the old gods. Now all of a sudden they're stylish. It's cool to be in love with the mother goddess or the feminine spirit. Just take a look at their website. The first art installation that comes up, Blessed Be the Boobies Swing. And I'm just going to read the description. Nestled in dust-blown expanse of BRC, amid the chaos and creativity, there exists a sanctuary like no other, a swing transformed into vivid homage to the feminine spirit. Much of this artwork is interactive too. They invite people to come and get inside of them. They have different functions and stuff, but I mean, look at this next one. It's the lotus flower portal. And it says that the lotus flower's roots connect us to the crystalline timelines, the crystals within the earth, within our bodies. It is with deep seeking that we root into our darkness, the dark soils of Mother Earth. And I had to mention these last two. We have one about afterlife reincarnation. It's called Afterlife Reincarnate, and it's a visually stunning fluorescent LED and backlit installation. It's a large-scale, immersive, and multisensory art piece, teleporting visitors to the ancient temples of Angkor and Borobudur, and the pagodas of Japan and China. So, got more references to Eastern religions, and also this one was interesting. It has like a Stonehenge kind of feel to it, but it's called Ad Astra, and says that this large-scale installation features 6 monumental sculptures arranged in circular formation, evoking a modern Stonehenge or sacred gathering space. Each piece is crafted from artificial stone and polished stainless steel, blending ancient textured surfaces with sleek, reflective finishes. So you got the mashup of future and past. See what I mean? It's just very obvious. We're going backwards. There's nothing new under the sun. The same patterns keep repeating. We're the future monuments are the past monuments. It's just a cycle, a cyclical thing. And I think the mistake that a lot of people make with, and this is very hard to grasp for any of us, really. I mean, who am I? I'm just a guy on the internet. But I think the grasp that we have on the entire timeline of existence, we have very, very little knowledge of and very, very little perspective. And we make this mistake of thinking that when we look into the future, we can't see the gigantic loops back into the past that have occurred. So when we think that we're progressing and it's this linear thing, and I think that what we're sort of discovering, and a lot of people will admit is the true nature, is that we repeat the past. And it's, I don't want to say doomed to repeat, but things happen cyclically. And it's just hilarious to me to see these quote unquote futuristic, they had to get the future and past elements together. That's just the theme. I understand that, but to have this look like a pagan monument, it's very interesting. And I've made a few videos in the past about the themes and the art of Burning Man, and mentioned paganism and the whole motif of sacrifice and the Green Man and Wicker Man type rituals, and gotten plenty of attacks from people. It's not pagan. It can't be pagan. You are out of your mind. It's like, dude, look at it. Whether you have a grasp on the totality of the message here, or the symbolism, it's pretty damn apparent that this is pagan. We are circling back to the pagan gods. As we speak, a temple is being built in the Black Rock Desert in preparation for Burning Man 2024. This year's theme has been revealed, curiouser and curiouser. And as you're about to see, it seems to be a nod to the chaotic and nonsensical world of Alice in Wonderland, and even stranger worlds beyond. This temple is being titled the Temple of Together, and it's going to be sort of a centerpiece for the Burning Man Festival. It was designed by a woman named Caroline Gosson, who was a Burning Man attendee back in 2014, who was deeply inspired and moved by the themes found here, which is, as they express usually, unity, community, and respect are all these themes that they have for this festival. But the design itself, if you can see, includes near the entrance a set of 2 large praying hands. And what's strange is they don't really ever mention, of course, any kind of deity, and they altogether reject Christianity. But there are signs and constant references to the supernatural and deities and deification of things. And one thing I found extremely interesting about the things you're about to see is that they point toward these things and leave them very vague. And I think that's intentional. One more quick look at the design of this thing. It's kind of got a Gothic vibe. You can see the hands right there, the sun sort of beaming through the entrance there. We have the 2 praying hands. And this is a kind of a working design. The inner parts have like it looks like an inner sanctuary of sorts. Very, I mean, these things are temporary, of course, if you didn't know that. They build all these buildings out there in the desert. And I think they build them in a few days or weeks beforehand, and then they take it all down. And apparently, supposedly, never leave a mark or any trace, litter, any of that stuff. All the materials are gathered back up. There's some really interesting things I wanted to discuss about the theme. So we have Curiouser and Curiouser, which is, of course, a reference to a line in Alice in Wonderland. So they're going with this theme, but I just wanted to read a little bit. Let's read this quote at the top here real quick. It says, "In order to attain the impossible, one must attempt the absurd." So this is the quote above the article here, but I just wanted to read a little bit of this. Check some of this language out and just tell me what you think, if you agree with me or not, but I'm going to give you my analysis of this. It says, the 2024 Burning Man theme celebrates puzzles without answers, embraces the irrational and the absurd, and invites the unknown over for tea. I'll jump out real quick. That's the first couple lines of this, but it just seems we have the thematic sort of invitation. You're inviting something in, something, from the chaos, something from another realm. Okay, this is important. I think this is, we can say this is inviting creativity in, but you just follow me here. They're talking about inviting things in, so I'm going to continue from there. So because it's in those timeless moments of not knowing, when we're consumed entirely by curiosity, that we experience our most profound learning, growth, and creativity. All great journeys of discovery begin with a question. Without that spark of curiosity, no movement is possible. Staring into the void of unreason, we experience the wonderfulness of wonder and the staggering awesomeness of awe. So, I wanted to point out there, it's just, there's a little bit of a vanity in this, just from reading it. It's just without that spark. I'll go back and read this. Without the spark of curiosity, no movement is possible. Staring into the void of unreason, we experience I'm going to highlight this wonderfulness of wonder and the staggering awesomeness of awe. Okay, so wonderfulness of wonder, awesomeness of awe. So awe for the sake of awe. I mean, it's kind of strange. Kind of feels kind of dead-endish. It's sort of like they're stopping short of the true transcendent nature of what's going on. They're stopping short. They don't want to put labels on it. It's like they want to ignore where the true source of where this stuff is coming from. And we have this stuff going back centuries. People talk about the muses, the sources of creativity. And I'm not saying every source of creativity is bad. I'm a creative person. I don't really believe that it's all evil or wickedness, but there's something that can happen when someone meditates on the darker side of things and wants to draw and extract something from the spirit world and is not careful about these things. But I'm going to go on. There's some more interesting language here. I want you to check out this last sentence and where they're going here with this. It says, which leads, after all this wonderfulness of wonder and staggering awesomeness of awe, weird language, I don't know, which leads inexorably to the asking of better questions, which is, after all, what makes us better than robots. Now, I want you to remember that, because I'm going to continue here down here. It says it makes us better than robots, right? You don't want to be a robot, according to this. So the magic of wonder is its power to startle us out of sleep mode, which is just strange. They say that this is what makes us better than robots. So is it saying we are robots? Because it's saying that we're in sleep mode. We need to be startled out of our sleep mode, which sounds like a phone or a device, and back into the immediacy of being. Studies say that the average human on the average day is running on autopilot. So I think they're making a reference. I mean, that's what a lot of this is. They're making a reference to how robotic human society has become, and I can jive with that. I get that. I'm all for that, but they keep making these references. They say that we're better than robots, but then they keep putting in these mechanical language to describe people and their nature, which I thought was strange. But about half the time, while they think about something else, possibly cat videos, even our best days, it's easy to just believe that we think we can stay inside the painted lines. The education system fills up with all the answers to all the questions, standardized exams. They're saying we lose the ability to imagine. But here, it says, sometimes we need to fall down a rabbit hole or step through a drawing room mirror to encounter the freakiness that was right there all along. Just a tornado ride away in Oz, or 3 wishes over in Fairy. Just past the Tory Gate on the spirit side, or a short rocket ride over to I'm gonna butcher this. Antithon, which this is fascinating. You need to see this. Antichthon, which is a counter Earth on the far side of the sun, where everything is its opposites and nothing is impossible. So this is fascinating. I'm going to read this quote from the Mad Hatter. If I had a world of my own, everything would be nonsense. Nothing would be what it is, because everything would be what it isn't. On the contrary wise, what is, it wouldn't be. And what it wouldn't be, it would. You see? It's total nonsense. It's just designed for confusion. I mean, they're creating, they're positing that confusion and chaos is a virtue, that being in a storm of chaos can create this wave of creativity, and so on and so forth. Of course, if you're unfamiliar, this festival is just full of drugs. I mean, it's just sounds like a lot of rationalizing for taking a lot of, dimethyltryptamine, DMT, Molly, whatever they got going around these festivals. I'm not too up to date on what the designer drugs are nowadays that they're taking, but the stuff that takes them out of their world, takes them out of their regular consciousness. So I looked into this because I had never heard of this Antichthon or Antichthon. Antichthon is this counter-Earth that was hypothesized by the Greek philosopher Philolaus, which, to support his non-geocentric cosmology, in which all objects in the universe revolve around a central fire. So he thought that which was kind of right in a way, because he was talking about how, our entire solar system does go around the sort of galactic center. He thought that there was a transcendent structure to the universe, which he was right in a way. But as you can see over here, there's a little diagram, but he thought that this counter-Earth, here's Earth, and this antichthon, or antichthon, revolved on the exact opposite side of this central fire, cosmic central fire. It's like another sun, maybe a black sun. I digress on that, but that kind of lines up with that. But Earth is always on the opposite side, so we can't see it, and we're never aware of it. Just thought this was fascinating. And according to this theory by these philosophers, they said that just by virtue of the fact that of their theory of the universe, that this other anti-Earth or counter-Earth was the opposite. Everything was just inverted. You know, it was like a mirror image. Everything was just inverted, backwards, exactly like it is, sort of like how physicists describe, well, not, I wouldn't even say physicists, but occultists describe alternate dimensions, parallel dimensions. But this is a common thing in the occult. I've talked about this ad nauseum, about how there's power in the reversal. You take things and flip it upside down. As above, so below. As within, so without. There's a law of reversal that gives them power. It gives spells power, or manifestation power to accomplish whatever goal. You know, it's the old Faustian bargain. All that stuff plays into it, but I digress on that now. I just want to stick to this theme because it's interesting. They throw this stuff in there, and we're really talking about mirror images and this world. They want you to just maybe help manifest this world, you know, this or to help them manifest it at this festival. They just it's very much a spiritual experience at this Burning Man festival. But like I said, they stop short. Instead of getting into language, you know, when they start talking about transcendent experiences, they just say the wonder of wonder, the awe, the awesomeness of awe itself. It's like, okay, they stop short. Well, what's the source of it? You know, they don't get into the angels and demons terminology very often. They want you to focus on the experience. It's very experience based, and it's very self-sufficient. You are sort of it's you and the universe, and you are the universe, and the universe is you. It's a very close-ended kind of, you know, where it just doesn't seem like they want to ask too many deep questions while at the same time asking very, very deep things about this limited sort of bubble that they want you spiritually to be in. But that's kind of my thoughts on it. There are, I believe last year, it might have been the first or second day, they had like catastrophic flooding at this place. And this place that usually never gets any rain at all had like 6 inches of just thick, you know, mud that had people couldn't even walk around, vehicles couldn't leave, people were basically stranded, supplies couldn't come in. It kind of, I don't want to say it ruined the festival. I think they carried on, but it was like after the first night, they had all these, you know, I'm trying to remember what the theme was last year, but it's escaping me. I'll put in some visuals here if I can find them, but the main image and main symbol of this festival has been around since the beginning, but it's a mock sacrifice, and it draws a lot of comparisons to the Celtic festivals and pagan festivals around the world. Druidic roots, most definitely. It's got connections to the Green Man, Gaia, and if you have not seen those videos, I'll link those in the comments. If you haven't seen those videos on my past Burning Man videos or my video on the Green Man, Revenge of the Green Man, and other ones related to this subject, but they are, this is a deeply symbolic allusion to sacrifice, and some would say people sacrifice. But I believe Burning Man begins at the end of this month, so I'm going to make more content on this. We're going to go into some of the deeper symbols. I mean, we got Alice in Wonderland, the mirrors, the reversal, inversion, follow the white rabbit, Mad Hatter. I mean, this stuff has connections to all kinds of mind control and just spiritual overtones, transcendent themes of just the occult that are being reworked and repackaged for people who are drug enthusiasts and are very highly creative artists. I mean, this is a very prestigious. It's gained a lot of traction over the years. I think the first one had like maybe a dozen or 24 people that showed up back in the 80s for the first Burning Man, and this thing has grown exponentially. I think it was around the 90s. It just started to just blow up, and it's just become this center for they promote a lot of sustainability. A lot of these artists this year are promoting the fact that their artwork is going to be quote unquote the most sustainable or the most green, the least amount of carbon emissions produced to make the materials, all that stuff. I mean, who knows? But I mean, that agenda is most definitely here. They're very Mother Earth, Gaia-centric. Tens of thousands march in droves into a vast desert. Their annual ritual is soon coming. As is their tradition, they will construct a temporal city, spanning miles. But this isn't some ancient tribe from long ago. This is the Nevada desert in September of 2022.
Burning Man returns to the Nevada desert for the first time since COVID-19 lockdowns this weekend.
It's like an experiment in living differently, and that people just open up right away out there, and there's not this kind of layer that I think we have in what we call a default world.
Music and outfits and just being able to express yourself however and wherever you'd like to.
80,000 burners, as festival goers call themselves, are expected to descend on 3,000 acres of dry riverbed in Nevada's Black Rock Desert in the coming days. 10 miles of fence will surround Black Rock City, home to 9 days of around-the-clock celebration. 19.5% of burners told sociologists they were absolutely transformed by the free-spirited desert experience in a study published this spring. More than 63% reported being somewhat transformed.
Every year, this newly constructed Black Rock City serves as a central hub for their festival of massive art installations and structures celebrating the creative and unconventional. This year's theme was Waking Dreams, a motif fueling the unusual and fantastic depictions of geometric patterned temples and pagan deities. But their main event is the burning of a gigantic wood effigy. And this is reminiscent of the Green Man festivals held all over the world lately that are growing in popularity. If you haven't yet checked out my video on the Revenge of the Green Man and the Rise of Wicca, here's the link. But now let's talk about the burning of this human figure as an overt allusion to human sacrifice. Killing something off for the benefit of the future, whether for the individual or the community, is a very old idea. So why do we do it? This mystery is explored all the way back in the Genesis account. In the wisdom of this text, it describes where Cain and Abel presented their individual sacrifices to God, and it is said that God was pleased with Cain's offering, but Abel's was not acceptable. Abel was crushed by this rejection, seeding a resentment that led to him murdering his own brother. And one crucial thing that the story is telling us is that we should take great care and put much thought into what we give up, leave behind, and offer to God. Or we risk inadvertently destroying what we shouldn't without control. Guilt, fear, and a sense of unworthiness all subconsciously play into the need for sacrifice. And it's often corrupted and misdirected. But this misdirection of sacrifice continues to rule the minds of men to this day. Among the occultic symbols littering the desert at Burning Man, there are a plethora devoted to the Mother Goddess, Gaia, or the Mother Earth or sacred feminine archetype. Let's not forget the methods employed to pierce the veil of reality in an attempt to see these deities for themselves. But is there an even deeper spiritual yearning behind this? For years, dimethyltryptamine, or DMT, and psilocybin, or magic mushrooms, have been utilized to contact elves, gods, and demons, and fantastic creatures that users of these substances claim are all around us in what is often described as the ultimate reality. Christians should be aware of the spiritual danger of these ideas. Many of them, admittedly, have been curiously attending Burning Man in recent years in search of God. They flock to the desert, even setting up camps there in the spirit of open-mindedness. It seems like the goal is always to diminish and dilute Christianity and its message. John Moorhead perfectly summed it up in his article, Burning Man, Fear of an Alternative Pagan Social Order. Quote, I have suggested that Christianity in America has a lot to learn from Burning Man, including the need to rediscover its own countercultural origins and the practice of speaking truth to power, concepts of self and community in postmodernity, and the significance of play as a possible signal of transcendence, the importance of festivals with their rituals of inversion, and the critique of society and utopian considerations. Unquote. We are watching paganism surge in popularity, and a plan is now underway for a permanent hub of Burning Man culture and its adherence to its 10 principles, a sort of version of their own 10 commandments. It's being built in northern Nevada. They obviously want to grow their magical utopia. At the inception of this ritual in 1986, it started with a crowd of 35 people and an 8-foot-tall effigy. It has grown substantially year after year. As our sin and wickedness waxes further, so too does the spectacle. We hope to burn off the unclean and atone, and in doing this, we have empowered and enthroned demons. There's something peculiar about the path of heavenly bodies. They form an ancient symbol. Rarely do their orbits actually form circles, but ellipses. This dynamic shape, the cosmic egg, accounts for the inflection point of cosmic creation in ancient mysticism and folklore. But does the knowledge of this sacred shape originate on Earth? The clues in archaic legends and bizarre stories of encounters with the beyond may point to a more cosmic or even interdimensional source for this symbol.
Behold, the cosmic womb is eternal.
Secrets seem to surround this elliptical symbol when it is found among many mystical teachings and the esoteric emblems of many secret societies. Those who practice alchemy revere transformation, which occurs on multiple levels, and this powerful motif of change is depicted in their philosophical egg. To them, it is the vessel of transition, where opposites are united and the gold of the psyche is created. And Greek mysticism offers a surreal creation myth which describes a silver cosmic egg that was created by the god of time. From it hatched Phanes, a primordial deity of light, who in turn gave birth to the cosmos. Of course, many of these traditions are esoteric, meant for the uninitiated to scoff at, while the truth of its allegory and symbols go unappreciated. And if you haven't yet seen my breakdown of the Gnostic creation myth, the mirror universe, click at the top of your screen here. But even Hindu and Chinese mythology have tales of gods and goddesses birthing an egg that creates and sustains the universe. So what conclusion are we left to make, beyond the possibility of a gigantic primordial chicken roaming the empty expanse at the beginning of time? Didn't Lovecraft actually describe that in one of his books? But seriously though, let's consider the possibility of other life in the universe. If this were truly such a sacred symbol, wouldn't every creature in the cosmos be aware of it? Even aliens, if they exist? This is where things get truly bizarre. The following stories may actually point to that very conclusion. The first one allegedly occurred in the Russian city of Voronezh on September 27, 1989, where multiple children and adults reported witnessing a strange, large, glowing object land in the public park. The event took place in broad daylight, and witnesses described a red or pinkish, egg-shaped or disc-like craft that hovered before landing. A hatch opened, and from it emerged several towering humanoid beings, reportedly 9 to 10 feet tall, with small heads and robotic or silvery appearances, often described as wearing some type of armor or spacesuits. One of the most striking details from the witnesses was the presence of a smaller, egg-shaped, robot-like entity or device that accompanied the beings. Witnesses claimed that the figures briefly explored the park and at one point used the egg-shaped device to temporarily paralyze or make one boy vanish, only for him to reappear moments later. Shortly after this occurred, the beings and the craft then departed, leaving behind impressions in the ground and signs of radiation, which were reportedly verified by Soviet scientists and investigators who visited the site. The incident gained international attention due to its coverage by Soviet news agencies, lending it an unusual degree of credibility for a UFO case. Skeptics still question the reliability of the witnesses, many of whom were children. But this story is mild in comparison to a case that occurred in the 70s in Italy, one with an even stronger correlation to the cosmic egg symbol. The Zanfretta case is one of Italy's most well-documented and controversial alien abduction accounts, centered around Pier Fortunato Zanfretta, a night watchman in Genoa. On the night of December 6, 1978, while patrolling a private estate, Zanfretta reported seeing a massive egg-shaped craft emitting intense light. As he approached it, he encountered several towering reptilian-like creatures with wrinkled, mottled skin, glowing eyes, and clawed hands. He went in and out of consciousness and later radioed his employer in a state of panic, saying, "They're not human." Over the next 2 years, Zanfretta claimed to have been abducted at least 5 more times, and under hypnosis, administered by doctors and investigators, he described being taken aboard an alien ship, shown strange instruments, and told that the beings came from the planet Titania in the 3rd galaxy. He also claimed that the aliens wanted to establish contact with humans through him and warned of a coming planetary crisis. To aid in his widespread communication with the rest of the human race, Zanfretta was supposedly given a strange gift by the aliens, an egg-shaped device for communication. But he also recalled that the bizarre object gave off a mysterious energy and could itself been an energy source. So why are these unbelievable stories and the icons of the occult pointing to this primordial form? What lies behind its perpetual mystery? We think of space as a mostly empty void, with bits of matter and light scattered across its expanse. But what if something much more was lurking in this void, watching the cosmos as we stare back at them? On its mission to Jupiter, NASA's Juno spacecraft captured an image that seemed to be emerging from the swirling gases that enshroud the planet. A contorted set of eyes loom over an almost sad-looking face. There's something deeply uncanny about seeing something like this out in the blackness of space. This distorted, melancholy expression shouldn't be there. Many would dismiss this as the phenomenon known as pareidolia. It's the proclivity for the mind to impose meaningful interpretation onto something nebulous and non-living. Our perception can project a face onto everyday objects, and now onto fantastic images of deep space. Is this just an evolutionary mechanism to help us spot predators that no longer has any use? Or is our brain sensing something deeper when we peer outward into the cosmos? Perhaps we're looking into the faces of a conscious universe that stares back at us. If you gaze long enough into an abyss, the abyss will gaze back into you. This unsettling quote from Friedrich Nietzsche is all the more hair-raising when looking at what was captured on June 19, 2019 by the Hubble Space Telescope. A collision of two galaxies has formed this eerie countenance. The eyes seem to burn with intense awareness, and one can make out the dim vestiges of a nose and a mouth. It's as if an ancient titan was daydreaming in our direction, indifferent to our earthly burdens. But few can top an image captured in 2023 by NASA's James Webb Telescope. Like something off of a doom metal album cover, a ghoulish face, draped in cosmic dust, appears to be shrieking into the void. With one glance, you can almost hear its horrific howl. But as for its origin, this one isn't actually a photo. It's an artist's impression of the original infrared images and data. With exaggerated details like these, it's hard not to be superstitious and somewhat terrified of deep space. Perhaps they want it that way. For more on what lurks in space, like artificially intelligent weapons from dead civilizations, click this video here on the Berserker Hypothesis, or tons of my other content like this. I'll see you guys in the next one.